between us?
No one.
What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome into the latest Gators Online Show. Zach Albaverdi and Nick Del Torre here. Hope everybody has been enjoying their week as Nick and I have been keeping up with all the happenings in Gator Nation. Football, I think all the dust has finally settled on all the transfer portal news, although we got another new addition this week that we will talk about. Also talk some UF hoops and baseball officially getting things started as the road to Omaha officially begins, Nicholas.
Friday, road to Omaha begins. The Gators are back out on the field. Put some stuff out on Thursday, and I'll have another 2 stories on baseball coming out Friday. And, of course, I'll be at Condren Family Ballpark. You already know where to get your Florida baseball news. I've been getting a lot of people saying, please, Sully, this is my last hope for men's sports. And the team should be really good, but we are staunchly on the stance of we will not overhype the baseball team because as I overhyped them in 2021 and again in 2022, and they didn't get to Omaha. So I'm not getting yelled at this year. We're not overhyping the baseball team. Although
there's some hype a little bit surrounding this men's basketball team, a little streak that they've got going. 5 out of the last 6 really seem to be finding their identity. So we'll talk about their most recent win and a big matchup coming up this weekend against number 5 Kansas State and former Florida star Keontae Johnson. So from that Keontae to another Keontae, we got both to talk about. And we'll lead this show with the football Keontae, and that's Keontae Goodwin, the latest addition for the Gators from the transfer portal. Nick and I had been working to confirm this throughout the week. Obviously, we wanted to give Keontae his moment to decide if that was something that he wanted to do, but the Gators got him enrolled, got him in for the spring, and his addition marks 10 total from the portal, and I think this is probably one of the biggest gets yet, Nick.
Yeah, he played at Holy Cross in Louisville, Kentucky, and this was the biggest or the highest rated signee the University of Kentucky had ever had from the class of 22. He enrolled there in January, and then just as a freshman last year in 2023, didn't get much playing time, decided to leave. But a massive human being at 6'8", 350 pounds. And as you look at Florida, you lose 2 guys to USC, 2 guys to the NFL draft, a lot to replace on that offensive line. And I think Florida, Rob Sale, Darnell Staples, and Billy Napier have done a fantastic job in the transfer portal, getting 3 guys to fill those 4 spaces. And then obviously you have Austin Barber, who had kind of taken over one of those starting jobs as well. And you bring back Kingsley Eguihon. So I think, you have Keontae Goodwin, Micah. And I think we're going with Mazuka.
That's it.
That's how we're going with it. It could be wrong. I think those are 2 guys I think ready to step in day one. And then obviously Damian George from Alabama. I don't want to put the man down, but whenever someone leaves Alabama, Nick Saban had the famous quote when the transfer portal started. He said, kind of ominously, I don't think we're going to lose many good players, and I think we'll take some other people's players. And I was like, gosh, this is the last thing college football needed. So some questions about Damian George. He had a really, really bad, as when he was a starter 2 years ago, had a really bad Iron Bowl, and then kind of was just like done starting at Alabama. So he left looking for some playing time. But Florida needed warm bodies, and I think they got some pretty good players, on the pursuit to just find people to fill some roles.
And I think with the addition of George and Mazuka, you figure Micah is going to plug right in there as one of the starting offensive guards, and then you've got Cam Waits and Richie Leonard. Unfortunately, Cam suffered a torn Achilles. He's going to have to battle back from that. So that gives Richie the upper hand heading into the spring, and the thought was, okay, maybe Cam slides back out to offensive tackle to start there, or maybe you have George start there. Well, now with the addition of Goodwin, that changes the entire conversation, because if he can come in, and I think he's still kind of working to get in the shape that he ultimately wants to be in, but if the Gators can help him through this offseason, you get a former 5-star offensive tackle to potentially start opposite Barber. And now you got a lot of depth and a lot of variety there on your offensive line. So 10 total additions from the portal. I think that, a lot of key pieces at some important spots, but without a doubt, their most impressive haul was along the offensive line. And to get, the quality and also where some of the programs that these players are coming from, you're getting some SEC caliber players. I just, like you said, it's a credit to the offensive line coaches in Napier for getting this job done.
Yeah, and I like the 3 guys that Florida got in from high school in this recruiting class, but the offensive line is a heavily projection-based position when you're talking about a high school player. And it's very rare that offensive linemen come right into college and are ready to go and be starters and play 65, 70 snaps a game. So I think Florida needed to get guys in the portal. And on Keontae Goodwin, he's a guy who ballooned up to 425 pounds in high school. And thanks to, our network being able to talk to some of the Kentucky sports radio guys who have been covering the recruitment and covering him this year. I think something that was really pivotal in recruiting him was the health and nutrition that Florida has and being able to get guys in shape, keep them in shape, and all of the things that Florida has at the New Heavener complex. With being, you get 3 hot meals a day, almost sounds like a prison. You get 3 hot meals a day, but you get fed well. They have a football only nutritionist with an entire team built out to get a personalized plan. To get a personalized plan just for you. She doesn't have to worry about, all 19 sports. It's just football for her and her team. So I think that was something that played a big part. And as guys who have had weight issues in the past, you've got that structure and that system to help you.
And also, too, let's be honest. I mean, this is one of the benefits of the transfer portal. In most years, when you lose 4 starting offensive linemen, you are rebuilding that next year. And the Gators haven't done that. They've reloaded on the offensive line and have the potential to be just as good as they were a season ago, despite losing 4 starters and an All-American. Now, I don't think you're going to be as good at that position, but it is. I mean, in the past, you lose that many starters, you're having to turn to some guys that have been waiting in the wings and some young freshmen that you're going to have to develop. That's not the case anymore. So that's, I think, big for Florida. And as a lot of folks said on Twitter, that trench work, Nick, you're going to get it from Billy.
They certainly have a type. I'll say that. You look at all these guys, and 6'4" is like the minimum height you can be, and you better be above 310. They have some big boys, and Kelsey and her team, I think the portions that you might be ordering, a few more potatoes, a few more flank steaks. You're up in the food orders this year, because these guys are not small human beings.
No. And, it's like you said, they clearly have like an average ideal height and weight that they're looking for with their offensive lineman. And it's starting to come together. He was not the only addition that they've had since the last time that we visited with you all. They also added 2 more additions this past week from the portal. Manny Nunnery and Cameron Carroll transferring over from Houston and Tulane, respectively. I think for the Gators to be able to get a running back from the portal and a guy who only has 1 year left, considering the depth that they have in their running back room, I think this is kind of a steal, to be honest. You're getting a guy that has this much experience in college and has produced when his number was called. And then you get Manny Nunnery, a guy who started pretty much full-time this past year for Houston. So they've done a really good job, Nick, not only replacing some of the starters that they lost, but replacing some of the depth that they lost via the portal.
Yeah. Well, let's start with Cam. I think how do you sell running back? I think I even said in the podcast before, I was like, Florida's going to have to go and find somebody from high school, because for a guy to come in with only 1 year left to play, and I get it, like it's a big jump from Tulane to Florida. You're like, I can prove myself. It's like, well, they had 2 guys almost run for 1,000 yards each last year who both returned, and one of them is a true freshman. So for me, when we found out that Cam was on campus, I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like, you only have 1 year left to play. He has reported 4.4, like legit 4.4 speed at 6'2", 225 or 5'11", 220.
Don't turn him down.
That's a burner. That's a burner. No. Hey, I mean, you needed another running back because if Montreal Johnson, knock on wood, rolls his ankle week 1, high ankle sprain, you're out for 5 weeks. You're rolling with a sophomore and a true freshman, and that's all you have. And then if something else happens, I mean, it's a tough league. Football's a tough sport. Going into the season with 3 scholarship running backs that would have been a massive cause for concern. So getting Cam in is huge for Jabbar Jalouk for that running backs room. And then Nunnery, it'll be interesting. I think you added already. First off, I would like to see Deuce Spurlock and Trahana Mitchell to have their lockers next to each other. Might have to duke it out. Might have to see who's got the best hands because that's Ohio State and Michigan. That's a big rivalry. We need to squash that beef before spring football starts. Just got to get it out of the way. You've already added 2 linebackers, obviously Derek Wingo. It'll be interesting to see how much he can do. He had to have shoulder surgery, which he's already gotten done. He's got a foot surgery coming up after that. What will his availability be in the spring? But Nunnery's a guy who's played a lot of special teams. Zach, when was the last time Florida blocked a punt or a kick? This guy's, I think, blocked 4 in his career.
The bowl game.
Sure. I was down and out.
All about it.
I was down and out. I had the itis. I had the flu. I was down and out for the bowl game. But it's
let's say it wasn't a memorable matchup.
Yeah, special teams were abysmal all year long.
But special teams did save the day in that bowl game, keeping the streak alive. I mean,
great hold by Jeremy Crabtree. Just a fantastic hold by Jeremy Crabtree. Unbelievable. And
Crabtree, you're in Texas.
Who did I say, man? Crabtree? Where am I? I don't even know where I am, man.
Oh man, that was probably one of the saddest field goal attempts in school history.
Hey, baby,
but
extended the streak.
They did, and so obviously, I think I'm almost positive that they're done adding for the spring. Probably won't be done after spring, but I think that this is it. I don't think that they can get another waiver for another transfer to start 2 weeks into the semester. But look,
Friday, January 27th would maybe be the last day, but you're a full week after drop ad. Obviously it's a little different being a true freshman with your high school transcripts and, whether you've done 1 year in college or 4 years in college, different with, transfer to a school already with college credits.
Yeah. So, but look, again, kudos to the staff for, I think, what they ended up hauling in from the portal because we knew once we saw the attrition that was happening and all the spots that were open that was going to be a big part of, the what they added to the roster was not just going to come from the high school ranks. It was going to come from the portal. And this is a talent acquisition business, as Billy has said multiple times. And I think there's a lot of stock to be put in what you're able to get from the transfer ranks. I think it's a lot more that you can count on and have an impact on your team right away. So the Gators are going to need some of these guys to contribute.
And I think we can put a little pause to what the hell is Billy doing in the portal? They're not doing anything. What's Bird Sherrill's even? What's his job even, Zach? I think they kept saying, like, listen, they understand the importance of the portal. What would the 2022 Gators? Listen, they were only 6-7, but how worse off would they have been without the transfer portal last year? So I think there's another 2-week period, and listen, this 45-day period was insane. Now squish that 45-day period, take a month off of it. So I think it'll be a mad rush for guys, and there will be more guys. Like there's 800 guys still in the portal today as we record this.
Crazy.
And after spring football, when you get into March, guys are going to start, being at practice, hands on hips, counting reps and counting players in position. Go, shh, this isn't what I thought it was. Time to hit the portal. And that's going to be a mad rush to get more guys in before the season.
And there's the potential there to possibly get some even bigger pieces that you can add. And we saw Florida benefit from that window this past year in getting Ricky Pearsall after spring practice. And as we've already discussed on the show, he has made his decision to return for 2023. And after getting an invite to the combine, putting up some really good numbers, he's decided to return to Florida. And I think one thing that probably factored into that decision was the news that you reported on Thursday, Nick.
Yeah, Ricky Pearsall, he's one of about, I think, 19 athletes that are going to be announced as the week goes on that will sign with the Gator Collective. And listen, when we were talking and I think I said I was trying to weigh out pros and cons, and I had a really long thing on our message board weighing out pros and cons, and I just didn't think it made sense for Ricky to come back other than NIL. And the Gator Collective doesn't disclose their contract numbers with their athletes, but let's say this: if you were a 5th round pick, top of the 5th round, I think the signing bonus was like $200,000. I don't know if Ricky Pearsall is going to be getting a $200,000 contract this year, but what comes along with being a 5th round pick is no job security and none of that contract being guaranteed. And if you get cut in training camp, boom, you're on the unemployment line and you're not getting paid by the team that drafted you. I can guarantee you with 1,000,000% certainty that Billy Napier is not cutting Ricky Pearsall. So you come back to campus, you're 1,000,000%. I'll put the deed to my house on it. He's not cutting Ricky Pearsall. No fear of that. You're the big man on campus. You're going to do some cool stuff with the Gator Collective, some cool stuff he's already posted. He's done some cool stuff with Fast FLA, helping here at Ron McDonald House and helping out at some other food shelters, homeless shelters and food banks here in Gainesville. So I think you're going to start seeing, and I put in that story, you're already starting to see either guys who have played 4 years but had a year left, or guys who were true undergrads. You're seeing the number of them decrease in leaving early for the NFL. And I think NIL is going to make the college football game better because you're going to get guys staying around longer. Hey, I'm a fringe top 3 pick or top 3 round pick. I might fall to the 4th or the 5th. What if I come back another year and I'm not losing money because I can make money through NIL and then maybe get into a better position for myself the next year with the draft.
Think about Osiris Torrance. I mean,
yeah,
man, what a benefit that he provided for himself by making this jump through the portal and turning himself into a 1st round pick, which he would not have been coming out of Louisiana. Even though he had the talent, he hadn't dominated the SEC yet like he did this past year. So I think for Ricky too, I thought the decision was interesting and would be influenced by the fact that the Gators lost Anthony Richardson and there's not a clear cut
the ball.
Yeah, and I thought that might factor into it. But at the same time, I think for his standpoint, he knows that he's going to be that go-to target. Even more so with Justin Shorter, moving on. So it's basically him and X. They obviously have a full receiver room, but those are going to be the top starters. And I think now too, you got to remember Ricky missed, I don't know how much time it was in training camp, but it was a good portion. And then
most of it. I mean, he got hurt week 1, like 2nd day in pads. So 1 week into training camp, missed it.
And I would imagine when he came back, even though he played, I think in the season opener, he was not, even if he had gotten back to 100%, he wasn't himself yet, and certainly wasn't comfortable in the offense, didn't know everything. And this staff, just getting him for fall training camp, didn't know a lot about him, didn't know exactly his strengths, weaknesses, how to use him. They certainly had evaluated him on film, but until you really get him in practice. So I think as the season went on, and certainly he kind of found his groove and the staff figured out how to use him, that whole process is not going to be there in 2023. You're going to go into the spring now. You get to have a full offseason with him, kind of build the offense around him. And, he was a guy that caught, I think, what he finished with was 30-something passes. I mean, he could end up with 50+ this coming fall and really boost his numbers. And I think everybody would like to see him get a few more jet sweeps and get involved in the run game more. I mean, he had a 76-yard touchdown, and then we didn't really see – he got like 2 carries the rest of the season. So I think from that standpoint, he figures that there's definitely some benefit to him coming back.
I mean, it took how many weeks for Chris Couch to be like, hey, this guy might be able to return some punts. So yeah, he is. If you would have lost what you did and then Ricky Pearsall, one player, especially a slot receiver, shouldn't affect my perception of a team so much, but it does. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe that's just the kind of impact that Ricky Pearsall has coming back.
And that's also it speaks to Florida's lack of proven players at the slot position. If you had a ton of depth there, and I think that Eugene Wilson's going to be a stud, and you got a few players that could plug in there, but Pearsall's.
I don't even know that you have a few. I don't even know that you have a few. I think it's just Ty Bowman and Eugene Wilson, and Wilson won't be here until summer.
Yeah, I think you could potentially find a way to utilize Mizell some just with his speed, but he seems like more of a burner on the outside. But regardless, he's got to put on weight. So and with Wilson, you don't have him until fall camp, so he's kind of in the same boat as Pearsall was last year. Yeah. You needed to be able to build your offense around him and have Mertz, Miller, whoever it is, know that that's a safety valve that they can go to. Yeah. Well, one guy that won't be part of that quarterback room is Jaden Rashada. By now this is old news. You guys don't want to hear about it. We don't really want to talk about it, but do want to at least acknowledge the fact that Nick put in a ton of work this past week. As we were last time that we visited with you all, we were waiting on this release to officially happen, and then the following day it did. And then Nick spent the weekend working the phones and finishing up what went wrong here, which was what we had been getting so many requests from fans, from readers. Hey, let us know exactly what you can. And as we kind of transition from the news of Ricky Pearsall signing the deal with Gator Collective, we all know that they've been really dragged through the mud here and kind of made as the public scapegoat, can't really comment on the situation. But I think as more details have come out from Nick's reporting, it's clear that all the fingers should not be directed at them. And I think there's a lot of blame to go around, and there were no winners in this. And it's an unfortunate situation, just overall. But this is not something that I think, for Gator Collective, having done almost 150 deals, this is the first one that went south. And I can't imagine that they're going to find themselves in another situation like this, given what they went through with this experience.
Yeah, I think there's already been plans to change ownership with the Gator Collective, and that's in the works. I've spoken with Eddie Rojas about that, and I think the biggest thing that'll happen from this is just a different operating system, the way that contracts are fulfilled and signed, and I think it's a big learning experience for everyone at Florida, and really
college sports in general.
I don't know that we'll get any change in college sports. Like the NCAA they're a toothless dog. Like they have no power to punish anyone really. And you're not even seeing stuff happen, as John Ruiz was, guys are committing. I remember that kid from Louisville, the defensive tackle, in his commitment announcement, he tweets at LifeWallet and at John Ruiz. And then John Ruiz follows up the commitment with like, yeah, we offered him an awesome deal. It's like, hey, you can't do that. And you're tweeting about breaking the NCAA rule. And the NCAA comes in, sniffs around and leaves. It's like, no, he tweeted that he broke the rule and you're not doing anything. So it's clear that they're not doing anything. I think what a lot of maybe national media hoped, because this story got a lot of national play, was that, okay, let's see if this will end up leading to big changes. And I think the only way it does lead to big changes is if Congress gets involved, because the NCAA went to Congress to try to stop NIL to begin with. And Congress was like, hey, let's look at your antitrust status. And the NCAA was like, you know what? Sorry for wasting your time. We're going to go back and we're going to allow NIL and let them figure it out. But the antitrust is good. Don't take that away. We're getting out of here. So I think the only way that it would have happened is if this situation gets to litigation and we start getting, actual contracts in discovery, text messages, emails, and getting all these things in discovery. And then someone from Congress will say, whoa, this is a mess. I think there's a huge, huge need to kind of iron some of this stuff out. But Zach, I mean, you go back and watch the Pony Express 30 for 30 on ESPN. Paying players to go to schools is not new. SMU got the death penalty. So like, there's no way that NIL, and I'm not saying that's what Florida was doing in this situation, but there's no way that NIL in the grand scheme was never going to be at some point or some part pay for play for college football. Like there's going to be a booster who says, you know what? A booster at Auburn, I'm sick and tired of losing to Alabama. Here's $10 million. Go get me a quarterback that can come in and beat Alabama. No problem. Yeah. Gotcha. Here you go. So I don't know that we'll get any meaningful change if it decided to get to litigation and we started seeing, the back end dealings. Then maybe it would alert somebody in Congress and we'd get some kind of government intervention. But the NCAA has no power. And as Scott Strickland told us back, almost a year ago now, or maybe even over a year ago, about last August, we might move towards a Big Two. And if it's only the Big Ten, the SEC as a Big Two, and you're not even the Power Five anymore, Congress has even less power. Or not Congress, the NCAA has even less power. So if you're hoping the NCAA steps in, I wouldn't hold your breath.
Yeah. And look, I think a lot of Florida fans were holding their breath on this Rashada thing. But look, I'm one of those guys that like to think things happen for a reason, and whatever is going to be will be. And I think what was supposed to happen happened, Nick. And I don't think that this, first of all, that deal and it was never real, and it was never going to happen. But in the wild, crazy scenario that it did, that would not be what the Florida football program needed. That would not be what the locker room needed. That would not be what the future of the quarterback room needed with DJ Lagway coming in. Just in terms of the NIL dynamic and especially with that number already being out there. If like somehow it had gotten worked out and he enrolls and I just think it was clear that everybody in all parties involved needed to move on. And
got your third string quarterback rolling up to campus in a Bugatti.
Yeah. And I think that you had a part of your story, Nick, where you said, this is a guy that wanted to play for Florida. And I believe that because I think that throughout the process, he told people, and I think even reporters off the record, that like all things aside, if he was just picking based on the school and where he saw himself and best fit and ideal place, that like Florida was the destination. And it's just unfortunate that NIL and something like this and a deal just going south can literally change the course of a young man's life and keep him from going to the place that he wants to go. And you could say, well, if he really wanted to go to Florida, then he could have just said, I don't care about all this stuff. I'm just going to go. But I think that once you lose that trust and you feel like you've been lied to or things have been misrepresented, it's hard to come back from that. And, but again, I think it's better off for Florida that this didn't go through and that you didn't bring this to your locker room. And now you get to move on and probably build this thing the right way and how it should be done.
Yeah. And to talk about that a little bit, I think there was a situation with a recruit that ended up going to Miami and from what I was told, like, hey, there was a number the recruit came back with, and it was like, if you can beat this, I'm coming to Florida. And I was told Billy Napier is trying to build a culture and a foundation. And do you want to pay $1.5 million, $2 million for
a high school offensive lineman?
A high school offensive lineman. And what do the guys who have grinded into your program for 5 years, 3 years, 4 years think about some 17-year-old kid coming in, a millionaire? And one more thing on the Jaden Rashada too. The number is huge and sexy, and it gets people involved. But like the likelihood of paying that entire contract is very small. If Jaden Rashada is that dude who shows that, like, damn, he was worth that money, then he's only here for 3 years, and then he's off to the NFL. Because if he's that good and he's worth that money, he's gone, and you're not paying that last year. If he's not good enough, let's say DJ Lagway comes in and he goes, shoot, this guy's going to beat me out. Let me hit the portal. Well, then the contract's good for 1-2 years or however long until he leaves, and then you're out of the contract anyway. So, like, the number is big, but it wasn't like they're stroking him a $14 million check the day he enrolls. You know, you're getting paid monthly over the course of 4 years, and you're having to go on spaces, go on podcasts, go and do things, card signings, meet and greets. You're having to do things for that. It wasn't like, here's a $14 million check. Thank you for showing up.
And I also think that Goodwin is an example of why you shouldn't agree to try to find and provide these ridiculous NIL deals for a bunch of high school athletes. There are some premium positions and some elite players, can't miss type prospects that it makes sense for. But, you know, the Gators made the decision to not fork over or figure out how to come up with $1 million plus deal for a high school offensive lineman who's a 5-star, and then they get a 5-star lineman from the portal that they didn't have to do all that for. So, you know, in that situation, it's an example of how things can work out, and it's sometimes not worth entertaining that stuff.
It's the portal, baby. Portal combat.
Portal combat. Oh, thank gosh it's over. Because you know, Nick, I mean, once the regular season and bowl games wrap up, it's kind of like a downtime for beat writers before things pick up in the spring, and it's not been the case at all.
It has not been the case.
We've been trying to figure out class schedules and enrollment statuses.
Yeah,
the last 2 weeks.
Well, I'll let you know, Zach. I'm getting married in June, and I already got PTO approved. I'm gone for 2 weeks in June, so you and Corey, or 2 weeks in July. You and Corey have a great time. Have fun. I'm out of here.
It's all right. Our boy Corey got his time away this past week. Mm-hmm. I'll have mine coming up soon. So, but we got this break coming up. We got to get to when we come back on the other side. We'll discuss some of the latest projections and news surrounding former Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson, and get into some hoops and baseball talk with you guys right here on the Gators Online Show.
What's up, Florida fans? Wanted to encourage all of you to go check out rogueshop.com if you have issues sleeping, chronic pain, and or anxiety and stress. Rogue Shop sells CBD, THC, edibles, smokables, and vapes, as well as handcrafted bath salts, soaps, candles, massage oils, pain creams, and topicals. Rogue Shop is a true small business, disabled, veteran-owned, Black-owned, woman-owned company. They have 5 employees and make all of their products with their own cannabis grown in their manufacturing facility. Visit rogueshop.com. That's ROGUESHOP.com.
Welcome back to the Gators Online Show. Zach and Nick here. And before we get into some NFL talk and the other sports, I do want to mention some of the other news happening around the league, specifically in Tuscaloosa, Nick, as Saban is looking for not 1, but 2 new coordinators, and some interesting candidates potentially out there, Nick, whether it's Mullen maybe as his OC. Could you go Jeff Collins coming back to the SEC, calling plays on defense, or does he promote from within and put Todd Grantham back in a play calling role?
I don't think he promotes from within.
No, I don't either.
This is Nick Saban.
Would Grantham being in the building keep Mullen from coming? Would they be able to bury the hatchet?
Yeah, sure. Nick Saban spoke with such confidence before the year, and then Alabama drops a couple games. I can envision, just because it's Nick Saban, it's the Death Star of college football. You get Dan Mullen and what's his name? Just fired from Arizona. The coach.
Head coach?
He was the head coach. He was the head coach at Texas Tech. What's his name? Cardinals coach fired. Cliff Kingsbury. You get Dan Mullen and Cliff Kingsbury being your co-offensive coordinators, and Jeff Collins dialing up ball plays on defense. It just seems something that you'd be like, oh, gross. Alabama's going to be disgusting again next year. Dan Mullen, I don't know that Dan –
would he take that job?
I don't know that Dan Mullen's ego would allow him to be part of the Nick Saban coaching rehab. I don't know if his ego – he needs it, but I don't know if his ego will allow him to do that. Cliff Kingsbury, he's going to be – I think his head coaching days are done. And I was watching some of the HBO Hard Knocks inside the season, and he had one quote that kind of really stuck out to me. It was in the last episode right before he was fired, and it was kind of just like him talking about all the responsibilities of a head coach, and he loves the chess match of calling plays and designing an offense. And when you're the head coach, you can do that, but it's not all that you have to do, and it's not your only responsibility. And I think he will relish getting back into being an offensive coordinator. And look, offensive coordinators are getting paid a ton of money. He's gotten paid a ton of money by Texas Tech, got paid a ton of money by the Cardinals. He's good. His pockets are fine. And if he can find a job.
I think someone told me that he may take a year off. That's been reported.
He bought like a one-way ticket somewhere. I can't.
That's right. That's what I was told. So
he bought a one-way ticket to like Turkey or like the Philippines. Like my man's just living life. He's a single dude, millionaire. Just had a terrible season. Got fired publicly. Yo, I'm out. I'm going somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi, where there's no cell service. Put my feet up on the beach and drink some pina coladas.
I respect it. Much
so
respect. Look, Saban's looking for 2 new coordinators, and he's got to replace his starting quarterback as Bryce Young is off to the NFL. And he is one of several quarterbacks that are receiving some top 10 projections for the 2023 NFL draft. And one of them, Florida fans, is your own Anthony Richardson, as Mel Kiper came out with his latest mock draft. Nick, top 10 for AR, as our friend Graham would be happy about this destination, as he thinks that Kiper does, that Carolina Panthers might be calling on Richardson to come join their team. So he's gotten a lot of different top 10 projections. I've seen a few in the top 5, but he mostly, I don't think he's going to get out of the top 15. It will be interesting to see the order in which these quarterbacks come off the board and who goes first. How many quarterbacks go ahead of Anthony? Does he maybe get drafted before somebody that is expected to go ahead of him? There's a lot of intrigue there in those first top 10 picks, Nick.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think Anthony Richardson drops out of the top 15, but I would like to see him go at 18 to the Detroit Lions. I think the Lions with Jared Goff. I think Anthony Richardson is the most talented quarterback in this draft by a long shot, but I think he needs time, and I think he needs years to develop. And if you go to Detroit, you've got a young offensive coordinator in Benjamin David Johnson, who has been, the Lions were a fun team to watch. You have a quarterback in Jared Goff who's going to be there for another 2-3 years, I think. To me, that's a great spot. I think Anthony Richardson needs to
go somewhere where he's not going to play as a rookie.
Right. And I think I don't know that Sam Darnold is the guy that keeps him off the field in 2023.
Good point.
I think the Lions would be a great landing spot for him. Maybe Minnesota, where you've got Kirk Cousins, who will be there for a couple years. Listen, the damn Eagles make sense without Jalen Hurts, because that's your guy in Brian Johnson. Maybe wherever Brian Johnson lands, if he gets an OC job, that's a spot for Anthony to land. But Anthony's draft stock is only going to rise. He played at 240. He'll probably show up at the combine in Indy at 220, run a blazing fast 4.4 at that size. He's got a massive arm. He's not going to throw at the combine because it makes no sense to. He'll work out with Ricky Pearsall and Justin Shorter and Xavier Henderson, and those guys will run routes for him. He's been throwing to them for years now. Those guys will run routes for him at Pro Day. He'll, make those throws on Pro Day that you rarely ever see when you have to run to your left and throw across your body, and he'll throw that ball 55 yards across his body with just a flick of the wrist. And scouts and teams and general managers will be drooling over the physical ability that he has. And somebody will say, I can teach this guy to throw that 6-yard slant or that 5-yard in. I can teach him to throw that more accurately. I can't teach someone to run at 6'4", 4.4 speed. I can't teach somebody to flick a ball 60 yards in the air. Anthony Richardson, fans get too wrapped up in, well, he lost to Vanderbilt. And it's like, yeah, there were 21 other guys playing that game.
He also threw for like 270 yards in the fourth quarter of that game.
Mm-hmm. So the NFL drafts on potential, and Anthony Richardson's potential is through the roof.
Yeah, and that's why he's continuing to get these projections despite the up and down season, despite the lack of experience as a starter, just 1 year to really show for. But there's a reason why he came out early, folks, and this is why. And
people thought it was crazy that he was coming out early, and I was like, he's going to be a first-round pick. That's why he's coming out early.
You're
crazy, Nick.
You're
crazy, Nick. You're crazy, Zach.
They thought that about Trey Mann too when he came out, and then he was a first-round pick. Maybe it's just Gainesville guys. The Florida fans are just they can't let go.
They're down on the ACRs, Zach. They're down on the ACRs.
Yeah. So look, we definitely wish AR and look, all of the Gators could have 10, 11 guys hear their name called in this draft this year, which is crazy to think about the amount of talent. And they also have 7 Gators that are still alive and going to be still playing for a Super Bowl as we get to NFL Conference Championship weekend. And you've got Carlos Dunlap still playing, man, and playing well.
Still riding around getting it.
Man, listen, you already know. If you know, you know. Carlos Dunlap, Tony, and Nick's boy, Tommy Townsend, and the Chiefs going up against the Bengals and Evan McPherson and the rookie, Zach Carter, as they advanced this past weekend. And then you also got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Fred Johnson with the Eagles that are going to be playing for the NFC title game against the 49ers, who do not have any Gators on their roster. So Cowboys are out. Jags are out. Bills are out. Elam is done. And a lot of Gators on the Cowboys. I didn't realize Callaway was on that team. He's on the practice squad, but that's a pretty good practice squad player.
I got nothing nice to say.
Who's your Super Bowl pick? Have they already lost?
No. I don't know. I don't know who I'll pick. I love the matchup with KC and Cincinnati. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow's had their number. I like the Bengals to go again, especially considering Mahomes getting that ankle injury last week. He's going to play, but how much does it affect you? I think we saw him playing hurt and with an offensive line that wasn't good in a Super Bowl, and he's running for his life against Tampa Bay a few years ago. I don't know who I got from the NFC though.
Mm-hmm. I think the Eagles. Man, it's crazy to me that the 49ers have gone as far as they've gone with Purdy as their quarterback. That guy is a rookie, man, is getting it done. And
Mr. Irrelevant is very relevant come NFC Championship week.
Very, very. I think the Eagles, they can meet their match with Philadelphia. So we'll see. I got the Bengals winning it all. I hope they do. I'm not
our boy Zach Carter.
Fan.
We gotta get him on the podcast if he's got some Super Bowl drip.
And Money Mac, man, he still hadn't missed in the postseason. Knock on wood.
He filed for a trademark for Money Mac, and it was denied.
No,
because a Cincinnati man has the trademark Money Max with an X, and it was ruled that that's too close. Money Max. So he was late to the party. Evan McPherson, late to the party.
Had to be a guy in Cincinnati too, of all places.
Yep. It was either Cincinnati or Cleveland. Ohio's all the same. Don't tell your wife I said that. Ohio's all the same.
Hey, I got family there too. Well, look, obviously that's the family of the old and the Gators in the NFL, and then we got some potential Gators of the future that were in Gainesville this past weekend as the staff had another junior day, and obviously some important visitors that were in town. Goodwin was not a junior day visitor, but he was part of the visiting party. But you had Miles Graham in town, Chauncey Bounds, who received a visit from Kirby Smart in the helicopter this past week, trying to flip the Gators running back commit. And Florida will have another junior day this coming weekend. Friend of the show, DJ Lagway, will be in town for that junior day and have a lot of targets that he'll be recruiting and putting that hat on. Nothing too crazy, as he told us last week with the recruiting pitch there, but obviously helped to have your quarterback of the future in town for a junior day. So our boy Bender is going to be back on it, Nick.
Yeah, no time off. Corey, congrats on the new house and moving. Moving is stressful. That's a great time for him to take some much earned PTO off. I wonder if I'm going to see my boy DJ at baseball this weekend. Interesting to see if he spends some time over at Condren Ballpark seeing the baseball team at it.
Well, Nick, just invite him and give him a tour.
Yeah.
So obviously big weekend coming up for the Gators there, and a big weekend coming up on the basketball front as a top 5 matchup for Todd Golden's squad as they head to Kansas State after getting a blowout win over the Gamecocks, 81-60. This game was pretty much in hand early on in the second half. Your
story came out pretty quickly after the game. Seems like you had some time to write while the action was still on.
Those are the best. Those are the best things when you get those kind of games. I mean, this was. This thing was. Look, I think they pulled ahead by 20+ points with 12 minutes left, and they led by as much as 30. They never trailed in the game. Just complete domination and a lot of impressive stat lines. Castleton leads the Gators once again. He gets 4 blocks. But really, I think the most impressive was Myron Jones, so close to a triple-double. There's only been a handful, I think, in school history. So he finished just shy of that, 9 points. He had career highs and rebounds with 10 and assists and no turnovers. So this guy's he's really kind of found his groove and found his role in SEC play. And between him and Kyle Lofton, I think Florida, they found their offensive identity, and it's really, I think, been a treat to see these past few games. The Gators have won 5 of their last 6. They got it clicking, and it's at the right time because 3 of their next 4 opponents are ranked in the top 5. So you need to be playing well right now.
Yeah, and that one of those opponents, the very next opponent, I think is going to be pretty emotionally charged, certainly for Keontae Johnson, Colin Castleton, any of the guys that were teammates of Keontae. To me, you and I, it's been such it was obviously such a scary situation to watch Keontae go down that way. And equally on the other end of this emotional spectrum, incredible for me to watch him really leading Kansas State. They're 17-3 on the season. Keontae's played in 20 games, averaging 33 minutes a game, most of anyone on the team, shooting nearly 40% from three, 54, almost 55% from the field, averaging 18.3 points a game, a steal, 7.5 rebounds. Like, he's putting together an incredible year, and just to see him being able to play the game he loves and being healthy, I think that's incredible. And I don't know that Florida fans will wish that he has one of those games Saturday, but will be certainly, a guy that they look at and they're rooting for the rest of his career.
Yeah, it's been just an incredible story to see his comeback and the level that he's playing at right now. And not as many guys still with the program that played with him, but certainly Castleton, and then some guys that got to know him through recruiting, and certainly just him being around the team last season. So just a special player. It's just a shame that, what happened to him and the fact that he wasn't able to kind of have that, this was a preseason SEC player of the year and was probably headed to be a first-round draft pick and just had his whole life turned upside down. And obviously everybody was just wanting to see this guy healthy and living and, smiling again. And he's gone way above and beyond that. And it's just incredible to see him kind of reach this point again. And like you said, there's going to be a lot that's going into this game. Obviously, once that ball gets tipped, it's going to be basketball. But this is going to be a tough matchup for Florida and an opportunity, obviously, to go on the road and get a quality win. They finally got their first quad one win recently. So, this is a chance to build their resume, not only in this matchup, but in some of the other ones that we talked about that they have coming up. I do want to say one thing, though, Nick, and, this is kind of off topic a little bit, but we were just talking NFL. It is, and I am glad that I can say this now because Damar Hamlin is okay. And it seems like he's going to be able to recover. And fortunately, Keontae is okay, and he's been able to recover. But I could not help but think during the night that Damar went down and was going through that horrific experience, what happened to Keontae and what the Florida players had to go through in that game and in that moment and on that night. And just from social media, just the overarching, what I felt like everybody was pretty much on the same page of, let's stop this football game and, let's call this. And people like crushing the NFL or in whoever they felt like was to blame for the fact that it even took as long as it did to call the game. And I just could not help but think about the fact that the Florida players had to keep playing that FSU game after what happened to Keontae. And I just, in hindsight, that was awful that they had to play that game. Pretty much very similar situations, with what happened to Keontae and what happened to Damar. So, again, thank God that they are okay and they've been able to recover from what they've been through. But that game should not have been played, thinking back on it now.
Yeah, I think it's so hard in that moment to make the right decision. I think they asked the players and let the players decide. And I think maybe, you just needed somebody, a Scott Strickland or a Chip Howard or, somebody to step in and be like, hey guys, like, this is a lot to take in. Don't worry about it. We're going to cancel this game. We're taking the decision out of your hands. Because if you ask an athlete, do you want to play your sport? Yeah, I want to play my sport. But yeah, no, I hadn't even thought of it that way prior to you, bringing it up right there, Zach. But yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, it was it's just tough, man, and it's it makes you obviously appreciate life and the fact that obviously sports, we enjoy them. It's such a cool thing that everybody gets to experience, but at any moment things can turn south, and we're just fortunate that we get to watch Keontae play on Saturday. I know Florida fans aren't hoping that he has too good of a game, But the Gators are certainly playing well right now, and kudos to Todd Golden and his staff, man. They've really, I think, they're starting to get things gelling with this team. You forget now that the season's gone on, and I think people know these players, but just how many new pieces they added. And Golden pointed out, I mean, it was 13 newcomers to the roster. And, that's not too much in football. It's a lot in basketball. And
everyone.
It's basically your whole team. And so being able to get everybody to gel, obviously you've had different guys out. Alex Fudge is out right now. He missed the South Carolina game. Riley Kugel got the start, stepped up big. Career high 14 points all in the second half, was dunking it, hitting it from three. They had a lot of guys step up and have been stepping up. So like we said, clicking at the right time. Going to be a lot going into Saturday's matchup, but they're going to get some opportunities here to really improve their chances. I think the latest ESPN bracketology that I read on Thursday had the Gators as the next 4 out. Was where they had them projected. So still
work to do.
Yeah, still work to do. They, I think, have improved their net ranking here recently with some of these wins that they've picked up, but got to keep it going.
Yeah, and like you said, playing in the Little Apple. I don't know if you know, but that's what they call Manhattan, Kansas. They call it the Little Apple. Playing the Little Apple on Saturday gives you a great opportunity. Listen, I don't think Florida will be favored. I don't think they are favored to win this game. But this would be a massive check mark and probably probably would be the best win you have all season. On your tournament resume. In the Little Apple.
Yeah, I haven't been to the Little Apple or the Big Apple.
I've been to the big one. I haven't been to the Little Apple. I'm good on the Little Apple. I'm all right. I'm fine. I can miss Manhattan, Kansas, and die a happy man. I think I'll be all right.
I have been to Conjuring Ballpark, and that's where you'll be on Friday, Nick.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Catch me outside.
Oh, how about that? Spring ball is officially underway. It's weird.
Winter ball.
We're so used to talking fall training camp, but it's time, Nick. Baseball season's here, man. You ready?
Yeah, I mean, ask me, game 40. How much I'm enjoying it. It might be less than right now, but this was supposed to be a downtime for me. You and I were talking about that. Hasn't really been a downtime for me between football and baseball, but I'm ready to get into baseball.
You spent 20,000 hours on the phone the past 2 weeks.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to watching this team. They're really, really talented. Looking forward to getting out there, seeing these guys. Saw them a bunch in the fall. Really didn't lose anybody or gain anybody in the weeks and months between fall ball ending and winter starting up. And then they obviously start on February 17th. But the team's loaded. I put out a projected batting order, a projected batting lineup, a projected pitching weekend rotation went out today. We'll have 5 newcomers to know on Friday, and then obviously Friday we'll be up there live threading it for scrimmage, which starts at 4:30 p.m. on Friday. So diving headfirst into baseball season.
What are you most looking forward to seeing, observing, figuring out this weekend?
Yeah, there's a bunch of questions. Obviously, we know who Brandon Sproat is. I know who Hurston Waldrop is. Florida fans probably don't know or haven't seen much of the Southern Miss prospect, who is the number 13, I think, or number 10 or 13 rated draft prospect in the entire country. And will be pitching on Saturdays, I think, for Florida. How is he? Who is he? How does he move into this new SEC competition pitching on the weekends? How do you replace Judd Fabian? I think there's a couple guys, Matt Privis being one, and Mikey Robertson being the other, trying to figure out who's going to start in center field. BT Rypel comes back. Wyatt Langford's back. Ty Evans is back. You've got 3 guys who could play time at catcher. How does that shake out? You've got really 6 infielders to fill 4 spots. Who are the odd men out there? How do you shake stuff out? There's a lot of questions on this baseball team, and none of them are, well, you don't have anyone there. They all seem to be like, well, you've got too many players at X position. Who's going to be the one that loses out? And obviously in baseball, it always comes down to if you hit, you play. So we'll see who's hitting the baseball early Friday, Saturday, Sunday with the Gators kicking off their road to Omaha.
And what are the scrimmage times for the rest of the weekend?
I gotta pull that up, Zach. You're catching me off guard. 4:30 Friday.
DJ Lagway needs to know, Nick.
He does.
He's got to get this schedule.
He does.
He'll probably hop on a golf cart and bring some recruits over.
Show him where he may be playing. Friday practice starts at 2:15 with a scrimmage scheduled for 4:30. They typically run a little late. Saturday, January 28th, practice at 11 a.m., scrimmage at 1 p.m. Practice on Sunday starts at 10 a.m. with scrimmage at noon. So you'll catch me at the ballpark shortly before 4:30, 1 p.m., and noon on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Man, it's just like that off season just bloop.
See ya. And the first month is 5 days a week. You play 20 games in 4 weeks. So living at the ballpark. I got to watch when I'm eating at the ballpark as we're getting ready for the wedding. Can't be eating all kinds of stuff.
Might need popcorn and
jeez. Yep. I'm gonna have to be bringing like salads to the ballpark. It's tough times.
Are the fans gonna let me cover a game?
Well,
my attendance record's pretty good.
I think the guys, we have a very tight-knit baseball group on Gators Online on the message board, and I don't think that you have done anything to redeem yourself in their eyes. It's going to happen. I'm going to need a break. You're going to have to cover a game for me at some point.
It's going to happen at some point. Sorry, Sullivan. Sorry, Florida fans.
But we will see.
At least I've redeemed myself with the man cave. It's starting to come along.
It's coming along. There's some stuff back there. Looks like some glass Coke bottles, a signed Tebow.
Signed Tebow
and Harvin, both of them.
We got a little signed Spurrier ball up there.
Oh, man, I have a signed Spurrier ball from 96. I don't know where I put it. It's somewhere.
Yeah, man. We're working on it. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
All my work, nothing done by my wife.
Yeah, that's a lie. The lie detector determined that was a lie. Shout out to Chloe Alberti, who was manning the power drills that hung all that stuff up behind you.
I did a good job showing her how to work it. So
yeah, of course.
All right, well, that'll do it for this week and this episode. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, following along to all of our coverage at Gators Online. Nick, props again on all your work on your in-depth piece this week. And good luck out at the ballpark. Be following along for Florida's matchup at Kansas State. We'll have Corporate Don on the scene for Junior Day. The show don't stop, Nicholas.
Thought we told you that the show don't stop. I thought we told you that the show don't stop.
All right, we'll be back. See you guys next week.